All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating story of economic strategy. With all the talk about the US-China trade war, it's easy to miss what's happening just under the surface. And that's where Taiwan comes in, making some incredibly smart moves. So let's break down how they're not just surviving this thing, they're actually winning. So, it all really boils down to this one central question. How do you win a trade war without actually, fighting it head on? What we're looking at here isn't a story about tariffs and retaliation. Nope. It's the story of a brilliant strategic pivot. And honestly, Taiwan's playbook is something to see.
Okay, so let's set the stage a little. The whole global trade environment got incredibly rocky, right? And the big threat on the horizon was this potential 10% global baseline tariff from the US. Now, for an economy like Taiwan's, which is so driven by exports, this wasn't just a bump in the road. It was a potential earthquake, a real crisis.
But here's the thing. Instead of panicking, Taiwan's whole approach was guided by this one core philosophy. It's summed up in the phrase, 化危机为转机, which basically means turn a crisis into an opportunity. And this wasn't just some empty slogan, It became the actual foundation for every single thing that followed.
And that brings us to their master plan. This wasn't just a single reaction. It was this really proactive, multi-layered strategy. We're calling it the three-point play. And it's basically a masterclass in how to not just survive immense economic pressure, but to actually use it to get stronger.
So the cornerstone of this whole strategy is something called the ART Agreement. That's the Agreement on Reciprocal Trade. The best way to think about it is like a legal shield. It gives Taiwan this special most favored nation status, which puts them on the same level as, say, Japan and South Korea. It creates a stable, predictable foundation, even when everything else is chaotic.
And here's how they use that agreement in their three-point play. It's pretty brilliant. First up, legal fortification. They use that ART agreement to get exemptions on, get this, over 1,800 different products. This lets them swoop in and grab market share while their competitors are getting hammered by tariffs. Step 2, strategic transformation. This is huge. They stop being just a factory on the other side of the world and start investing directly in the US, making themselves a crucial part of what people are now calling the democratic supply chain. And finally, step 3, fueling the future. They're working to get tax refunds on tariffs that were ruled unconstitutional. And guess what they're going to do with that money? It's getting plowed right back into high-value research and development and digital transformation.
Okay, so theory is one thing, but let's look at this strategy in the real world. And there's no better example than what we're calling the TSMC gambit. We have to be clear here. This is not just one company making a business move. What TSMC is doing represents a massive leap forward for the entire nation. And the scale of this move, well, it's just massive. Look at this number, 6. That's how many state-of-the-art semiconductor factories, or fabs, TSMC is planning to build in the United States. So we're not talking about a small, tentative step to just test the waters. This is a full-on commitment. It's about reshaping the entire global tech landscape and doing it from American soil.
A move this big creates a powerful ripple effect that goes way beyond just one company. For starters, it triggers a wave of globalization for Taiwan's entire supply chain. It also opens up access to really high-margin markets in the US, like defense and energy. It creates a launchpad for Taiwanese green technology to enter the American market. And maybe most importantly, it deeply, deeply intertwines Taiwan's most critical industry with America's own national security interests.
And this isn't just an idea on paper. I mean, the Go to America team is literally forming right now in Arizona. You've got key players like Ching-Chung and LCY Chemicals setting up to provide the essential high-purity chemicals. Hantang and Funsan are there to build the actual clean rooms. Gudang is making the crucial EUV pods. And then you have companies like CHPT and Winway handling the final testing for those high-end AI and military-grade chips. It's the whole ecosystem moving together as one.
So, let's zoom back out for a second. What we're really witnessing here is what you could call a great supply chain swap. That's pretty simple, really. As one manufacturing giant, China, steps back from the US market, somebody has to fill that void. And Taiwan is methodically positioning itself to be the one that does. Now, you might be thinking, well, couldn't this just reverse itself? And that's a fair question. But the key thing to understand is that this isn't a temporary dip. It's a deep, fundamental, structural shift. It's being driven by a pretty solid political consensus in the US and this intense global technology competition. The bottom line is, this decoupling is real, and it looks like it's here to stay. What all this really highlights is a brand new definition of value in global trade. For decades, the name of the game was low cost, and China was the core partner, but that old model was super vulnerable to tariffs. Today, the game has totally changed. The focus has shifted from low cost to political security. It's about moving from just a core partner to a truly strategic one, and it's about being protected by formal agreements, not vulnerable to sudden changes.
And the results? Well, the numbers really do speak for themselves. Just take a look at the data for Taiwan's tech exports to the US. We're talking about a staggering 150% surge. 150%! This shift has been so dramatic that the US has now officially replaced China as Taiwan's #1 export destination. This isn't a prediction anymore. It's what's happening right now.
So, when you put all these pieces together, what does it add up to? Well, it looks like Taiwan is forging nothing less than an economic fortress. Through all these deliberate strategic moves, it has completely transformed its role in the global economy and, in the process, created a whole new reality for US-Taiwan trade.
And you can see this happening across a whole bunch of specific, really high-value industries. Take AI and ICT servers. Taiwanese companies are now the go-to suppliers for giants like Amazon and Google. In the world of high-end bicycles, they're using those favorable tariffs to dominate the mid to high end of the market. In precision machinery, they've become the preferred choice for America's manufacturing revival. I mean, in sector after sector, you see the same pattern. Taiwan is methodically and strategically capturing the market share that China is losing.
Ultimately, it all comes down to this really powerful idea. This whole transformation can be summed up by the shift from 代工毛利 to 战略溢价. It's a move away from just earning a thin manufacturing margin to commanding a premium for providing real strategic value. It's a whole new ballgame. And it leaves us with a pretty provocative thought for this new era of global trade. What's the true price of trust?